Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, over me hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, hey, in diaspora, current affairs, hey, reliable information, history, ooh, talking about culture, hey, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Jimmy, you frozen?
I think Jimmy is frozen.
Jimmy, internet always got problem.
Jerome, can you? Okay, Jimmy back.
Ladies and gentlemen, in Focus of Liberia Land, thank you. We have a very interesting show for you tonight. And as you can see, we have a power-packed panel. Let me start with Dr. Clarence Pearson. Welcome to the show, Clarence.
Thank you for having me, Jimmy, and hi to all my fellow panelists on the show tonight, and welcome to our audience out there.
All right. And of course, we're going to be introducing you to a very erudite economist and nationalist, Mr. Thomas Connick.
Thank you, Jimmy. Great to be here. Looking forward to the discussion. Hi to all the listeners and those that will join us later.
Very good. And of course, the knowledgeable Dr.to-be Ahmed Salif.
Thank you, Jimmy. And absolutely, let's do it. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, and welcome to our viewers.
Right. And our unrelenting supporter of the JNB administration, Mr. Ali Kamar. Welcome to the show, Ali.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Focus on Liberia once again. Hey, I have been interacting with Connor. I've always wished to interact with Ahmed. Now, these are my two favorite people on the issue of governance. Their analysis usually is based on the issue, and they tend to stand in the middle. And so I really enjoy them a lot, and I'm glad I'm sharing a platform with them. I have my brother Clarence Pearson here. You know, that's my brother and everything. So and everybody else on the show, Jerome Gilman, the most troublesome human being I've ever seen in my life. You know, it's going to be crazy on here to have him on. You know, everybody else, man. I mean, I'm happy to be here.
Very good. And our unrepentant sedition, Mr. Jerome Gaiman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I see Mr. Kamara is a true politician. He's looking for a partner. He not praying all these folks so they don't attack him. He's all right. But it's an honor being on the show with you, Mr. Eastman, a great panelist, my gentleman. welcome to the show. I think it's going to be riveting today. Thank you very much, Doc.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let's dive in straight tonight. Gentlemen, I don't know if you're part of the news, but the presidential motorcade struck a keke, as I understand. One person died on the scene and the other 3 were injured. What I mean, how something like this can happen? What do you want to weigh in on this, Ahmed? Let's hear from you.
Thank you, Jimmy, and everyone else. Listen, I'll say that several factors, accidents do happen, and they have happened. This incident was not the first one; it would not be the last one. I recall, I think President Sirleaf's convoy had several issues similar, even in other countries. So that's no excuse. I'm no apologist for this administration in any way. But I would say, look, as I said, number of factors. One, a sheer accident, unfortunate. Condolences to the family and speedy recovery for those who were injured. Our infrastructure and public education as well as discipline on the part of the security forces, perhaps movement of VIPs and particularly the president's convoy. These are factors because in our country, our people, by and large, informal sector, informal economy, people sell in the streets, everybody sells something. In a context like that, any VIP convoy will have to be careful how you maneuver among our people. And you know how, for example, the velocity of the speed is what the security assessment, why is that necessary like that? We understand it's the president, that's the highest protectee in our security apparatus in the country. I get that. But again, several factors. The citizenry need to be educated when they see, say, emergency vehicle, ambulance, and things like that. Here in the U.S., you pull aside. You hear a fire truck coming. You hear an ambulance coming. You get out of the way. Vehicles get out of the way. Do we have that kind of discipline? Do we have that training in our country? Unfortunately, we do not.
Okay, very good. Dr. Pearson, we have narrow roads, and is it necessary that this speed of these convoys be maintained where with such small roads? Could all this be avoided? Could this be avoided? Dr. Pearson?
Yeah. Thank you, Jimmy. It's unfortunate, actually. And someone told me the other day when we left from the show that we should be cognizant of the fact that there are a lot of people who viewing us, and because of that statement alone, I just want to say that our deepest condolence to that bereaved family, right, that suffered that loss today. It is a sad event, especially with the convoy of the president. While on his way to attend to official function. But coming down to the issues, I think poor infrastructure is one of our major situation in that country. Our roads are poorly designed. The other day, I was just talking to one of our public works official, and I was wondering, and I was asking if we do have a road network or strategy or plan, and that lay out what our roads should be like. And he said, "Oh yeah, we have city ordinances and laws that tell us how our roads are supposed to be." I'm saying, no, I mean, we're in 21st century. Do we have a modern structural design of what we want our road network to be like? That would get rid of the traffic congestion, that will account for different type of motorists that are applying the traffic. And he couldn't give me an answer to that one besides the regular demarcation of alleys and other stuff in our country. And I think that's one of the major issues we need to address. As the world becomes more sophisticated, I think Liberians should start to get sophisticated as well and think deeper than just on the surface. Another thing I want to bring to our attention tonight on this issue is the issue of lawlessness. All right, and we also we know that there have been a lot of motor accidents in Liberia, not just among cyclists, for reckless driving on the highways because the road was just built and it looked nice. So people just drive beyond the speed limit and people lose their life on major accidents in our country. I think today there were 3 accidents in total in Liberia today. 3 major accidents in Liberia today. All right. And so, I mean, lawlessness, people driving where they're not to be driving, like someone just mentioned, one of my, Salif just said, someone driving and you see an emergency vehicle coming, you still want to be on the road. And, you know, and then I want to end by saying this, Jimmy. I had a family member of mine, my cousin, who was struck by child stealer motorcade, and he almost lost his arm in the accident. Until the day he still can he doesn't have full function of that arm. All right, and today he's crippled as a result of that. And so it's sad when I hear these things. I know for a fact when I grew up in Liberia, our EPS guys are reckless in how they drive. Let me be very frank with us. They're very reckless. I've seen people who are in authority drive in public as though they own the streets. And then my vehicle one time came to a full head stop with another government official vehicle, and they didn't know who I was, and we almost got into an altercation until I had him to get back on his lane, and I refused to move on my lane because he came in opposite direction trying to avoid traffic. And I told him I'm not going to move my vehicle. I had my driver stop in the middle of the street at Captain Junction, and it was a big scene there. So I mean, poor infrastructure, lawlessness, and reckless driving on the part of government officials, and that's so sad. I think we can do better, and I called on our LMP to maybe enforce the law better and have our security apparatus trained to put these things under control.
Okay, Brother Connor, yeah, it is. Somebody has lost their life today. We in sympathy with their family, but 26 right around the corner. We're talking about lawlessness, but we notice that the top officials are allowed to drive on the left side of the road, taking up. I mean, is this really necessary that beside the president, should we allow anybody who has a siren to just simply break the law and drive onto incoming traffic on the left side of the road? Doesn't that add to the confusion?
It does. I mean, let me just add my voice to the previous speakers to extend our sympathy to the family members of those who lost their lives. To me, it's really painful, right? Because if you look at the profile of people who use kekes in Monrovia, who use motorbikes, they are coming from the lower social strata of our society. The middle income people, those who have money, maybe like you and myself, like Clarence was saying, we have our vehicles. That's what we use to move around. But these people who don't have income, you have a country of 5 million people, and over 60% of them are below the international poverty line. So these very poor urban rural dwellers, we have to use these alternative means of travel to be able to get around. So they're either using motorbikes or they're using kekes to be able to move around. So this will be maybe a keke rider who doesn't have income for himself, who's riding for somebody to be able to pay for that keke, and then eventually it becomes his. They are struggling on a daily basis to be able to get out of poverty. And like you said, this is 2 days to 26. If that person had family members, they are waiting for him to get, at the end of the day, the little money he will get will be what they will use to provide food for the home. So when they go out there and they drastically, untimely meet this kind of debt, it really does pain me because these are people struggling to get out of poverty. But I think it comes back to the bigger problem like every previous speaker was talking about. Since the Civil War ended 20 years ago, I don't think we are really improve the infrastructure of Monrovia to be able to build alternative roads so that we can even demarcate this road is for this part of the road is for vehicles, this other one should be for kekes, and then the rest the part of the road for bicycles so that everyone can move around. We've not done that. Even to label the roads to just create crossing points is very difficult. So it's an infrastructure problem. It's also an issue of respect for rule of law. And like Mr. Kamara was saying, the reason why we continue to stress on rules, regulations, and laws is because when you don't follow them, then you get into such problems. Because every time the presidential convoy is traveling, there's this police vehicle that goes as an advance vehicle that signals that the president is coming, for instance. And even with that, you have these kekes and motorbikes, they won't give way. Because the point is that to an extent, these people don't even want to respect government officials. They say, we are looking for our food. We need to survive. What is the rush? Where are you going? Every day we hear about stealing in this country. So why should we give you the road to move when we also need to survive? So the more we continue to violate our rules and regulations, the more we are sending a message to the people down there that don't respect the rules and regulations. And therefore, we have situations like this. And I think with the public officials too, they need to be careful that we don't have the infrastructure that they ride with. So to conclude on the point that you raised, the issue of these tail lanes, I don't think there should be a law for government officials to use the tail lane. We should put money in the budget and build additional roads. If we don't have the infrastructure, they need to go to work early rather than to just confuse the traffic with everyone moving in opposite directions.
Okay, gentlemen, let me share with you briefly. Allow me here to share with everybody briefly. There it is, gentlemen. Anyway, the report we got is one person has died and the rest of them are on sustained injury. The unrepentant sedition, Mr. Gaiman, can we do this in a better way?
Well, first and foremost, our condolences to the families. I mean, this is just a difficult time when the economy is basically in the bathroom and people are doing everything, like the folks would say back home, to find a living. And something like this happened. One of the things that I can conclude is that we are still living in the 20th century. Just imagine a city so congested as Monrovia. Even if they wanted to move, there's nowhere to move. The leadership, it is our job. When I say us, those of us who have gone to some school, got some modicum of education and know-how, our job is to create an enabling environment. Our job is to do survey, to forecast, to change the life of the folks. Why now? Why in this particular age and day, when 50% of the population is crowded in a little place like Monrovia, okay? And in the 60s, when Tubman was coming, that's what they used to do. Why 20 car convoy, 20 cars. They call them advanced team, then presidential escort, then people coming, then the president. And they are, look, as you saw that road in that little clip you showed, even if you wanted to move, there's nowhere to move. So it is incumbent upon the leadership to find solution as to how we can navigate this without causing this kind of damage and carnage that is going. It doesn't matter. This is going to continue because the population is not getting any smaller. But my greatest disappointment was the president. The president was going to an event where something like this happened. And I listened to the president for the entire duration of the program. He never acknowledged about this. In this country, people will say before the program starts, let's give 1 second or 2 seconds silence to the bereaved or this. Nothing. Then the president later on, when I listened to him at the EAWA hospital, they generally ask him, this is your first time, this is a tragedy that just happened. What do you have to say to the Liberian people? He says, these people, something like these people are supposed to learn. They shouldn't be in the role. Something ridiculous. The leader of the nation, instead of addressing us in the time of emergency, he passing the blame on we should educate the folk, they shouldn't be on the road. Can you imagine when people are grieving? Our leaders, the leader, the father of the nation, is saying these people shouldn't be there. It's terrible. This is not partisan. This is in any society where there's a tragedy, someone, the leader will say, we are going to have a moment of silence for the bereaved. And then later on, you calm the nation down, but never happened, never addressed it. And then came out and passed the blame, put the blame squarely on their folks for being in the road. This is terrible.
Yes, Mr. Kamara. We know that accidents happen, and is it right to blame anyone? Or can we give a reason or suggest a solution so we can avoid things like this reoccurring in the future?
I think you're trying to throw a jab at Jerome Gilman, but I'll act like you didn't do that. But anyway, first of all, let me say condolences to the family of the bereaved. It was tragic. I believe he was a very young fellow. This is one of the reasons why we keep boasting, talking about we have a young population. It's not a good thing that we have a young population. The reason why we have a young population is that nobody's getting old. People are dying young. That's why the people remain young. You know? So we should begin to boast when we see ourselves having a lot of old population. That would indicate that there are other safety measures that are being put in place, including health. I mean, we got good healthcare system. But to just assume that 60% is young, so it's a good thing, no. That means you're really losing a good percentage of your population, you know. But motor vehicle accident in Liberia in recent times has been very prevalent. This just happened to be a presidential motorcade. But if you go to Liberia, it's an everyday thing where people die through motor accident. If they're not dying over motorcycles, they keke or some reckless drivers sometimes. But this is what I would suggest at this point in time. I think it's about time now that Liberian presidents go back to living in the executive mansion. With the kind of traffic hazard that we're having, the streets are very narrow. Toman Boulevard, you think is a 4-lane, but from the 4-lane, you go straight on the sidewalk. There's no other space there where a car can park and pick somebody up except at the bus stop. So the presidents have to decide that, and we should not begin to reduce our level of trips on these roads and try to monitor the different times that people that the streets are less pliable. I think we all got to do this. I don't think it's a Joe Guaca thing and it's a George Weah thing. It's a situation that we have not been able to really take our time to look at, given that there are so many pressing issues, and sometimes we'll forget about the things that are taking away our population. So condolence again to the family, and I hope they do not listen to the politicization of this. This was a tragic accident, and we hope the dead rest in peace.
Amen. We hope our sympathy is with the family, and we hope that we can find a way to, bring you solace. But our solution is there, and we're gonna work on it. But one thing we do know that the president is still making appointments. He has anybody?
Jimmy, if you don't mind me, can I get a 30-second closure on that on this accident?
Okay, I will let you close. I'll come to you first, but let me just introduce the next topic. Then you can close on that and go ahead. The president is making new appointments in government. 99 magistrates in 9 counties. Are we going to see a complete fulfillment of all the positions? Is it necessary that all the positions are filled given the budget-strapped economy we have? Go ahead, Mr. Pearson.
You are muted.
You're muted. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry. I will address that for now. Just go on that. Just close on that other topic. I'll wait for us to comment first on that appointment stuff. But you see, we did talk about the poor infrastructure. We talk about the lawlessness and the reckless driving. But there is something that comes to mind when we say we cannot politicize this. I think it's political in a sense. When you have a situation where Mr. Gaiman is not the only one who observed that the president did not show empathy on this issue. We ourselves observed the scene, but again, this is a loss of life and family mourning. So it doesn't seem the appropriate time to sound political. But again, we have to address the issue if we want to solve them. Now, if you even went on the executive mansion website or on the Facebook page where the press secretary managed, there's no mention of any sympathy or any condolence or anything towards that bereaved family that we acknowledge on the show tonight. I think that is wrong. I think that is seriously wrong. We saw the same behavior when it came to the King George situation. We saw the same behavior when it comes to other So what I think is that we need to reach to a place who have leaders that are able to stand up and take responsibility for some of these things when they happen, because it is only then that we can correct them. So President Taylor's Convoy crippled man cursing. Ellen Convoy killed somebody. Today, Joe Burke, even we are Convoy hit someone before. Joe Burke Convoy killed somebody. What have we done to remedy the situation from a leadership point of view? I think that's something we need to look into and fix these things rather than just sweep it under the carpet.
Very good. All right. So now we're going to the next topic. The president is making more appointments. We see that 99 magistrates have been appointed in 9 different counties. 35 magistrates for Grand Crew alone. Now, we do know that there are open positions. On the other hand, we know that there's a limited budget we do not see enough money for school to build up the schools. LU students been out of school for how long? We notice the hospitals are strapped for medicines and for beds. But is it really required that we fill these positions? What's the priority? What's your take on? Let me go to a national economist here, Mr. Kane. What's your take on it?
So, before I go to the appointments, I just wanted to give a background to the issue of these magistrates. So, our judicial system, we have 3 branches of government. The judiciary has its own structure. And in the judicial system, we have a structure, the hierarchy of courts. We have the Supreme Court that is at the top. We have circuit courts. We have a debt court. We have a criminal court. The magisterial courts come at the bottom of that pyramid. So these are actually the courts that are at the community level. Mm-hmm. So every case that originates in the judicial system, like in a village in Grand Crew or in a village in Lofa County, the magisterial court is that first court that they use to interact with the judicial system. And the way it is structured, they have a defined jurisdiction. There are specific cases that they can preside over. And there are other cases that they cannot preside over. When it comes to civil law cases, for instance, regarding debt, they can only preside over a case that is below 15,000 US dollars. So if somebody owes you and you want to go and file a complaint for you to sue that person, you can go to the magisterial court. They can also preside over criminal cases of specific limit, but they don't preside over cases like cases that jurors can preside over. So within Liberia, we have around 79 magisterial courts. And the way they are presided over is that you have a secondary magistrate and then you have two associate magistrates. So if we have 79 magisterial courts and you have three magistrates in each of these courts, we should actually have 200 and around 37 magistrates that should be in the country. And they are spread across the 15 counties so that in even the most remote part of Liberia, you have one of these magisterial courts. And after the Civil War, donor partners and the government have been working to be able to build the capacity of these magistrates. Because before the Civil War and until the time the Civil War ended, they were not really trained to be able to preside over these courts. Most of them that were magistrates were doing it through apprenticeship. So they would just listen to people. Some of them were not even high school graduates. After the Civil War, they reformed the whole system that before you can become a magistrate now, there's an institute at the judiciary, they call the Judicial Institute. So you go to their Judicial Institute, you go through a training of 1 year, they train you on human rights, on judicial processes, on the law, you graduate, and then the president appoints you as a magistrate. So this is more in line with providing access to justice so that people can be able to have access to the judicial system at that level. On the issue of grain crew, and I will conclude on this grain crew on Sino, under our decentralized system, these two counties have the largest number of units of local government structures. Even when you look at cities, I think grain crew should have around 30, Sino should have around 20 something. So this is why every time there is local government appointment made in Liberia, these two counties will have the longest list of appointees. So this is where these appointments are coming from. So we have to see it within the context of access to justice, not only the president appointing a long list of people.
Very good. But what about the economic state, this budget-strapped economy, and the government doesn't have money to do other essential things? I think it's very justified that we have to have justice throughout the country. But at what cost? There's an opportunity cost there. Mr. Ahmed Salif, what do you say?
Well, I say I agree with Thomas as he has laid out the structure of the judiciary. So there are several institutions of government, in this case, a whole separate branch of government that has all these layers and for good reasons. On the executive side, if you look at the Ministry of Health or the health sector, you have, multitudes of units and subunits, and for good reasons as well, Similarly, education and Ministry of Internal Affairs. These are the largest employers that are scattered across the country. Access to justice is a very important cardinal principle under rule of law, under citizenship, and under citizenry. So you don't want, because somebody is a resident in a remote village in Grand Cru, should not have their citizenship and their rights exercised, or their rights, bestowed upon them as citizens in Monrovia. I mean, how do you explain that, right? So it's a constitutional matter, it's a moral question, it's a question of citizenship, and it's an equity question as well. So you think economics. I mean, if you think economics, and then with the reason why I've mentioned these other institutions, you start asking, why do you have all these teachers? Why do you have all these schools and all these principals? Why do they, all these district education officers, county education officers? Why do you have this structure, right? Why do you have county health officers, and in the numbers that we have them? So the country, it's a small country. We acknowledge that. And our budget, we keep saying it's not really commensurate with the problems in the basic social services that we ought to be providing to our citizens, and also the public public sector investment that we're supposed to be doing to be able to grow the country, to develop the country. Things like capital investment, building dams, providing electricity, providing roads and maintaining those roads, so forth and so on. So it's really a question of how do you govern in such a way that you're able to have adequate revenue to serve the citizens as you should. So I'm not looking at the number of magistrates that have been appointed. Thomas has just very eloquently laid out to you our structure and why we have the president appointing this, what seems to be a large number of magistrates. Because the way it sounds is like we almost don't even respect them, but they're very, very cardinal to our judicial system in the country. So to conclude on this, I'm not looking at it necessarily from an economic standpoint as it is a matter of access to justice, constitutional rights, human rights, but more so on a larger scale governance. How do we bring in resources adequately to be able to govern and to give people the services that they ought to have?
All right, Mr. Kamar, do you
Yes,
agree that the dispensation of justice should come high on the list when we're talking about dividing up the national budget? Where are you on this topic?
So the president put forward a bill called the Local Government Act. All this while, he has been waiting to see what the legislature would have done with that bill. As we speak, the Speaker of the House have not brought that bill up, neither have the Senate Pro Tem. And the president has a constitutional mandate. One of those mandates is enforcing the law. Enforcing the law means you must have the law everywhere in the country. Everywhere, every township, every district, and so on and so forth. So since the Local Government Act cannot be passed because he would like to turn this to the different counties to actually do those, because he did not want to appoint them. That's one of the things he didn't want to do. But he had no choice, because it doesn't look like these guys are trying to bring that thing on the floor. They want their $150,000 given to themselves. So what the president should do, just not perform his constitutional mandate. It's a mandate, remember, to hire those people. I would say personally that there are a lot of people. I've been to Sino. I did plenty business in Sino. There's no city in Sino but one, Greenville. But on paper, there's a lot of cities in Sino. I went to several villages, and even we used to do the business through the Freeport. The port of Sino. And there's only one city in Sino. Speaking from a Liberian standard, there's only one city in Sino. But if you look at paper and see how many cities Sino have, you'll be scared. Those are things that the president wants to pass over to the county to make those decisions. And we are hoping that those of you like Jerome Gilman, like Pearson here, the ANC man who have become by default a citizen, we are hoping that you can call your speaker and talk to them to bring the Local Government Act bill that the president has given them since January to try to pass it. And the president wouldn't have to go into all of that. If you ask me, I want most of those people to be elected by their people in their various districts and counties.
Very good. Even though you had to take a jab, but I think the notion of electing their own judges and officials, I do support that without your jab. Mr. Jerome Gaiman, you heard what your brother just said.
Yes, I have to disagree with my brother, the well-learned Kenneth and Brother Salif here. If you look at our judicial system and do not look at it in the economic context, then you are actually doing a disservice to us. For those of you who grew up in the cities, this may not refer to you, but those of us who grew up partially in the interior, I, for one, had a justice of the peace who never went to Monrovia, never even went to Buchanan, but he was the king where we lived. And saying he was not on government payroll, he basically paid himself. So whoever had the largest goat or the biggest cow, usually justice will lean toward that person. So when you're talking about a magisterial court that's supposed to have staffing, have cars, and all of these things, and there is no money, and that judge or that justice of the peace has to pay himself. This is what we are looking at. Say, if you don't look at it in the economic sense, where we can fully fund these positions so they can be independent, and if they have to pay themselves, then we are doing justice wrong. I had the same conversation with my uncle Tom with you when he under the child Taylor regime. They were giving
Mr. Jimmy, let me provide information for the man.
Listen,
But don't interrupt the man. Let the man.
They were in Basel, they were creating these cities. Everywhere you go, cities, giving them city status. And I said, Tom, are you looking at the economics? Are you looking at the funding? Are you looking at that economic has something to do with the judicial system and the power these people wield? He said, don't worry, they will pay. They will find a way to pay themselves. That was the logic. So if you don't have money in the budget to fund these positions for them to be independent, I remember Ellen Johnson, they were saying, why are you paying some of these judges so much money? She said the judges need to be independent so they can't be bribed. So that's why the justice, I think the last time there was an article that the Chief Justice of Liberia make up to close to $340,000 when you put all her packages together. So if one person in the country makes that kind of money and everybody else makes nothing, how do you justify our judicial system? So while it is true that we need these people, our second Achilles heel in Liberia is our dual judicial system. We have a traditional system. We have our Western constitutional system. You saw when the former sedition representative impregnated an 11-year-old girl, and they chased him. He took the girl into the zoo bush, and that was the end of that story till today's day, because our constitutional system cannot cross over to our tribal traditional judicial system. So we had a dual system that have made the system corrupt. So my friend, if you say strictly justice, let us not look at it by the appointment, but let's look at it holistically.
Mr. Eastman, don't let out the impact.
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Hold on.
So-
I'll give you guys a chance to rebut. But just a minute, Mr. Gamer. I don't think pregnant woman can go into the bush.
but listen now, we're not talking about 20 years ago. I'm talking about sedition. Somebody that I know personally, the guy from Grand G that impregnated his
I know that case.
And when did he take the girl? He took the girl across, and the zoo people came outside and said the police can't come in. The police never went. Up to today's day, we don't never know what happened to that case.
Okay.
So
Can I come in?
Yeah, let Mr. Pearson come in, then I will give you Mr. Connor and Mr. Kamara a chance to rebut. Go ahead, Mr. Pearson.
You know, sometimes when I listen to how we address some of the issues that Liberia faced with today, I'm kind of puzzled. Not because the issues are far away from the reality, but because of the way we are very short-sighted in addressing our problems. And I say this to say that I see where Connor comes from when he provides the theoretical foundation of our judicial system, our 16 judicial circuit courts, and our 79 ministerial court, our Supreme Court, and all of that. Those are all good rhetoric. But when it comes to governing, we've campaigned open and said that the country is acquiring a lot of waste in terms of how we manage our meager resources. And these presidential candidates have propounded these views in campaigns that the government is bloated, a lot of money being wasted on unnecessary staffing. And yet we see when they come to power, because of political pressure and political affiliation, they distribute jobs to people when the jobs are not solving major needs. Now let's come to the issue about these judges. Do me a favor, go back and research. In March 2023, there was a report over where judges in the rural communities were fighting over cases in the villages, over general magisterial courts.
In jurisdictions.
Yeah, there are jurisdictional demarcations, and so I mean,
yeah, I think he's frozen.
I think
you'll come back to conclude.
Let me take.
Go ahead.
Let me take it from here. So what I did in my initial response was to give you a background to why these appointments are done.
No, you did an excellent job. No,
Right. So to come back to say I'm like justifying why they should be made without paying attention to the cost of it is misrepresenting what I said, right? As an economist, every time you do anything, every transaction that takes place, it comes with a cost.
Exactly.
We should pay attention to how much this is costing the government. But until we can change the structures, you cannot say to the president, don't appoint the magistrate simply because you want to reduce the cost of the running the government. Then the other question is, are you not denying these people access to justice? Like Ahmed was saying, this is a constitutional issue. This is the way the judiciary is structured. And this is a separate branch of government. So you already have the Chief Justice at the throat of the executive and the legislature, saying to them that we got only 2% of the budget. Out of 700 million, you only gave us 18 million. The Chief Justice is even threatening to shut down the budget.
Yes.
And then you come and say, okay, we are not going to appoint magistrates simply because they are not useful. We're not going to do it. In fact, there are too many. The solution to addressing all of the cities that are in those counties, like Mr. Gaiman was saying in Basel, a couple of years ago, there was this competition just to create jobs. People were just creating cities. You go to Sino, you go to Grand Cru. I said it on this program a couple of times ago. There are certain cities you go to in Sino, the sound bowl that is in front of the city is bigger than the city itself. You have to pass the sound bowl before you can see the houses. So the local government law addresses that problem. It says that the only cities that are recognized in the Local Government Act are the 15 county capitals. Beyond that, every other city that will be recognized as a city in Liberia must have a threshold of around 10,000 persons. And that's one reason it took a long time for the Local Government Act to pass, because that threshold will determine whether your city in Sino or River G will become a city moving forward or not. So once they start to implement the Local Government Act, it will dissolve these cities and the codes that are there. Imagine there are villages in Sino that got traffic code. When there is no vehicle, they got traffic code. So once the Local Government Act is implemented, those structures will be dissolved and then those appointments will no longer be made. But I just wanted to come back to say I have a consideration for the cost. I was only trying to give a background to why they were done.
Now that's the economist I know, Mr. Kamara.
Listen, man, they got a book that light in Gaiman Town where we don't even have traffic, we don't have car going there, we're knocking him down. Go ahead, Mr. Kamara. The traffic could kill me. Go ahead.
On the second thought, I decided to waste my time on Gaiman. Yeah, go ahead.
But man, not even on the traffic code, you're going to say it.
I already said the solution for that problem is a Local Government Act, and there was a modification done, and y'all need to pressure your legislature to begin to make that an issue so that we don't be giving any more money. You know, they're not going to agree.
Thomas clarified that the Local Government Act was passed into law in 2000.
So which one Joseph Burger is sent back to the House?
It's to turn the Ministry of Internal Affairs into the Ministry of Local Government.
Okay, but that's what I actually meant, because the Ministry of Internal Affairs is the only one who can enforce the act. If the Ministry of Internal Affairs is still a Ministry of Internal Affairs, how can they enforce Local Government Act? You know, so it's the same thing pretty much. But thanks for the correction, gentlemen. You have to tell your people to make that Ministry of Internal Affairs Ministry of Local Government.
Okay, gentlemen, I don't know if you follow this story. But a Chinese miner, Gao Feng, was arrested for allegedly defrauding the government over $29 million. Now, there has been series of reports of illegal mining in our country by various foreign nationals. In fact, it is told that these people only get exploration permits. But once they get an exploration permit, the next thing you know, they are mining. Some of them are supposed to be mining sand. You see them taking out diamonds. Mr. Sirleaf, I'd like to know where you think of it. We always begging for money, but are we controlling the loss we have in the country? Don't you think we would beg less if we can control the resource we do have?
Well, we do have loopholes in how we monitor licenses that the government issues to foreign concessionaires, to foreign individuals, to even local individuals or citizens who are mining or who are partners to some of these concessionaires. In terms of, I give you one example, ArcelorMittal, right? During President Sirleaf's time, and I won't call name, but I spoke to a particular minister who was very close to, whose portfolio was very close to those who would monitor and really try to, make sure the government of Liberia and by extension the people of Liberia benefited from that contract with ArcelorMittal. Well, it was ship the iron ore, they still do, from Nimba to Buchanan, to the port of Buchanan. According to this particular official, the vessel that takes the iron ore away, to wherever they take it abroad, is so large that it can't berth at the port of Buchanan. So smaller vessels will have to transport the ore to the bigger vessel offshore.
Mm-hmm.
The government didn't even have the capacity to actually quantify, to calculate how much in terms of quantity ore that's been shipped from the smaller vessel to the bigger vessel, and whereby rent that's been paid on this concessionaire, on this concession contract, is measured in terms of quantity and how much they are mining and all that. Now think about that, right? If we don't know how much these people are extracting yet, and they're paying a certain percentage, presumably based on quantity of extraction, we're not even getting our money for the natural resource that's been extracted out of the country. An example. So you have these Chinese come and they secure licenses that are under certain policy regulations are easier to secure, and then they go in the interior, in the rural part, and engage in various activities.
Yes.
And so we do not have the capacity. The mine ministry, my understanding is to fully follow these people around to try to monitor their various activities. That's one problem. The second problem is simply corruption. These people are conniving with these individuals. Then this particular Chinese person, individual you're speaking about, I believe is the one who would say is the actual minister of mines, or was the actual minister. And by implication, that means this person has so much power because of the economic power, because of the financial powers, using money to basically bribe our officials so that they will turn a blind eye, so that they will look the other way. And then these, foreigners will do what they'll do with our natural resources. To make matters worse, our rural people are the ones who are used as in the most dangerous way, right? To really work for these miners and for these individuals to extract the natural resources from their community, which they don't benefit from, and a lot of them get hurt or die in the process. So it's a very difficult situation, I would say. To be honest, I don't know how we get out of that, other than saying, really, if you're regulating the sector, what are you really doing to regulate the sector fully? Are you aware of everybody that's there? What are the activities? And so I put that on the one hand on the legislature, but the executive branch has a huge responsibility in there, because you have ministers and sector ministers who should be in the know of these things, as they say in Liberia. But I'm afraid either capacity problem or some other reasons, that's not what's happening.
I will come to Mr. Gaiman, because Mr. Gaiman, not only, as you heard Mr. Ahmed said, that some more regulation should be implemented. Yeah.
Jimmy, I think you guys lost me for a while there.
Yes, we did. We'll bring you back. You stable now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, don't worry.
United Party put to hack my computer.
Yeah, they told us they were going to get rid of you. So
this is where I was going, right? So I'm not speaking down on what Conan said in terms of the structure, but if you went to that report I'm talking about, the Supreme Court was the one that acknowledged and recognized that the office of the president and the legislature were creating more circuit court and appointing more judges than they wanted or they needed. So I know when it comes to the argument of the budget, we say, oh, the Supreme Court already arguing a budget, but the Supreme Court is also not happy with having too many smaller courts that they do not have anybody properly functioning out and creating problems for themselves. So there's a need for us to cut down, and I'm driving to say this. In short, we need to have a small government that is efficient and manageable. President Boyka is on record for saying this on international media, that he says if he becomes president, he will cut down the government. But he's not cutting down the government. In fact, he's bloating the government. And this is just one section of what we call bloating. And I don't want anybody to tell me, say, oh, the president does not have the power to cut down these things. The president has the power to even interfere with any position. Why wouldn't he have the power to restructure?
Let's go to the next topic.
Yeah, but Dr. Pearson, let me push back a little bit. Okay, everyone knows that small government is usually more efficient, but are you politically ready to let go thousands and thousands of Liberians, even though they're hardly getting paid? But are you ready to take that political risk? Will that not stigmatize your administration? And what will you do to compensate for that ill feeling that people will have for your administration? When you're in politics, you have to balance both sides. You can't always do what is prudent.
Someone said the other day, we need to tighten our belts. When Aliyu took office the first 12 years, they said for development to happen, they have to take pain. When they were breaking people boots down on the road a few days, they say for development to happen, there will be some pains. At the same time, you are not under constraint to blow the government when the government does not have the revenue to maintain that budget. At the same time, we need money to attend to other major pressing, national development issues. Like the Colonel said the other day, why will you be accepting gift and begging for generator when RIA raising money to buy that can buy generator? These are the problems we have here. We're not managing the meager resources we have. I'm just saying, in short, the president needs to go back to what he promised during the campaign. He's going to run a smaller government. And not only that, he's going to improve the private sector. And the private sector will be able to absorb the current employment situation we have. And that's what we need to be doing. Be innovative and be creative. That's why we need a vibrant leadership. If President Boga can't do it, let him step aside. That's what we're saying.
All right, Mr. Gaiman. Let's go back to this mining issue. All right. I understand under the previous government, the permitting was moved to the executive mansion. And what do you think? Was it beneficial, or what is it? Did it bring mining under control? What's your take on this whole illegal mining and the loss of our resources through illegal mining?
The illegal mining, to be very frank, is a minute part of the theft that is going on in the mining industry. I was born in Bassa, so I understand the mining from Lamco. We had a pelletizing plant, and they wash the plant, they separate the iron ore from everything else. And the question we used to ask when we were children is, we are talking about tonnage, tons and tons and tons of iron ore or dirt. What else is within that dirt that big stuff scoops and put into that Euclid, the huge truck? What else is in there? How do we know that they are not only taking iron ore? How sure are we they are not taking bauxite and diamonds and gold and all of these things? How do we know what is in there? Like Brother Salif said, we we are so deficient at what we're supposed to do that we take the miner's word for it, because you got to do it by
We can't
tonnage.
even check it. We can't even check what they take.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you didn't even check. So he tells you, say, listen, I took 10 tons today and you get 5% of that. Whereby he was taking 100 tons. So
you
here
got
we
to
are.
tell it.
The
Yeah.
little guy who are mining diamond going here, it takes them maybe a whole year to get a handful. But those guys that are scooping whole mountains. And
Yeah.
Brother Connor, these people who are into the weeds of the data, they will tell you, if you look at that hole that was in Bomi, because a Bomi hole now, the LMC, and you go to Nema, where you go to Bon, where Bon Mine was, where Lamco was, and you see those big holes. You just imagine what minerals were there other than iron ore that we lost on. No revenue whatsoever. And even up to now, we are the thinkers, the contents of the word, the Salif, you, myself. None of us here, we are sitting around and saying, how do we remedy this? Instead, we are going to ask the European Union, the Americans, whatever they are, and say, even though you are stealing from us, but come and do a study and tell us how we're going to remedy it. Then they come out and read you their glossy piece of paper that they call manual, and it's well written and it's on your desk, but there's no implementation because you don't have the capability. So this is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, for us to have that much wealth and our economy is less than $1 billion. I mean, look at the budget. The budget is $738 million. It sounds like a lot of money, but for what we are giving up, that is just, I told what you call it dash. That's what they are doing. They're giving us dash.
Yeah, just a dash. Mr. Kane, we beg a lot, always asking for favors, and now they're giving free gifts. I never heard that in the economics I studied, but they're giving free gifts and we're begging. But can you imagine they are taking our iron ore and we can't even know how much they're taking? Whatever they tell us they take, then that's that it. Isn't that illogical? For all the schooling you've been to, how does that sit with you?
We have a very serious problem, and the issue with knowledge inequality between us and the West is not only Liberia. There is an issue between the global North and the global South, even when it comes to other areas. So for me, for instance, much of my studies is in taxation. I follow these global conferences and all of that. And when you listen to tax officials that come from the global south, they always complain that when we go to negotiate a tax treaty, they will invite you to Paris. They say you sleep in the hotel. The next morning, they give you a document of around 350 pages. And they say by 12 o'clock, we will review this document and pass on it. And all these tax officials will be complaining, how much time do we have to be able to go through this? So that challenge is already there. And then it comes to Liberia, where with all of the inequality that is there, we are not doing the bare minimum. I don't think we are trying a lot. So like I said on one of the previous shows that we had, we've been mining iron ore for over 50 to 60 years now. Where are the iron ore experts that we have? Maybe we have some, but they are in the diaspora. How come we've not been able to build a knowledge bank in this sector that we can have people to be able to tell us this is the quantity we have, this is where we have, this is the grade we have? For instance, there's this great issue around Wologisi. Every time you talk about it, they say, oh, that grade is lower grade, it's not good and all of that. But who's saying that? Is it our experts that are saying that? Or like Mr. Gamer was saying that other people saying that to us. So we've not really been able to build our capacity. And to be very frank, over the past 6 years, everything that was happening in that country was upside down. With the issue of the way the licenses were issued, exploration licenses were issued, and then people go and start actually mining on the exploration licenses instead of then coming back to the Ministry of Lands and Mines to be able to say we found something and therefore we want to mine it. I think at this point in time, we just need to pause and really be able to rethink how we can develop our regulations, our laws around this entire mining sector. Because we've seen examples on what other countries are doing. I said this the other day. Museveni, for instance, banned the export of iron ore from his country. And then the next day, international mining companies went in to say, okay, we're not going to take it out, but now we start to add value to it. But when you say it in Liberia, everybody will argue. Liberia has not reached to that level. Liberia has not reached to that level. You want to grow, but every little thing they ask you to do, they say you've not reached to that level. Today, I'm sidetracking. I think 2 days ago, there is a news that there's a new law school that is coming up that will be called the Liberia School of Law. And then I saw somebody posting on Facebook, is Liberia ready for 2 law school? Why can't you go and face the law school to LU? So when are you going to grow up? To me, I think the situation we have is that we are even trying to diversify away from the mining sector because our economy has been too focused on the mining sector. So I think we just need to pause, go back to the laws, all the MDAs and everything, and be able to rethink how can we improve this mining sector to be able to actually contribute to our economy. Because the 3% royalty that we are getting, it doesn't add anything.
No,
It doesn't add anything. The Metasti agreement, for instance, there's a portion of that agreement we hear that if they make revenue, if they make dividend, they're supposed to share the dividend with us. But they never declare dividend. And nobody follows them. The National Bureau of Concession that we have to monitor these concession companies, they are under in Monrovia. They don't go anywhere. And when the legislature is reviewing the concession agreement, they don't even call them. Sometimes they call them as witnesses. They just present and then they go back. So everything in that sector is messed up. And then we have all of these scandals that are happening. People who are supposed to sit at the Ministry of Lands and Mines to help us benefit, they themselves connive with these people and exploit us. You have a B-ball 1, B-ball 2, and all of that going along. So it's just a messy sector. We need to fix it, and we need to pause, close it down, fix it, and move forward.
Very good. I said Mr. Kamara. Now, the Minister of Lands and Mines, I personally know, is a mining engineer. I know the only thing, maybe he did not practice very much. He went into politics, but he is supposed to be knowledgeable in this area. So
he got BSc in geology. He's not a mining engineer.
Well, geology and mining engineer, anyway. You're borderline. You study the same courses. You just specialize a little bit differently later on. Mr. Kamara, shouldn't we? What do you suggest that we put? How we bring this thing under wraps, under control? If the country is hemorrhaging their resources through this means, what is the solution?
Yeah, first of all, I don't support closing it down, just shutting it down abruptly. There are people over there who have to pay their children's school fees, who have to eat some way, somehow, even if the benefit is very little. What I will first of all say is kudos to the Ministry of Lands and Mines for the first time in our history, that an action has been taken so severe that even some of the illegal miners are now concerned. They're looking over their shoulders. To put a bill up at $30 million. I don't see even the Supreme Court charging anybody that in Liberia. That was a bold decision. That was a sign of a man who is ready to actually set the record straight. We all know Pay, Wayman. He's been a controversial figure, but we know he's a straight shooter and a straightforward guy. Look, I don't think any Liberian in their sound mind, even the most average or below average Liberian, would say that adding value to our natural resources is too much for us to handle. I think that cry was in the pipeline during days of the CDC, and Ellen's second term. Ellen, first time we could understand that she was desperate and she had to, get some of these concessions so that she can have the country, up and running. But from the second concession and George Weah time, and nothing was done. All we saw was lawmakers getting brand new Toyota pickup trucks, full cabins. And when I hear people talk all of the time about, oh, they give Joseph Boga they give Joseph Boga something for the state, people making noise. But when they give CDC lawmakers brand new Toyota pickup truck, everybody took it and sat down, did not disturb Aslamita anymore. So work has to be done, but it has to be done in ways that are more professional, that also seek the interests of the people. And I agree 100% that not just iron ore. I think all of our mineral resources we must add value to our mineral resources. We must find ways how we can slow down these capital flights, how we can cut it down insignificantly, because money still have to go out. But let's be able to control the money that are made here. Somebody was saying, oh, all of our best, they're out of the country, mounting people, geologists, all of our best are out of the country. But when did they leave? If they left because of the Civil War, what were they doing while they were in the country? Because what is going on now is the same thing that was going on then. So I don't understand that argument anyway. But yes, we need to restructure things. There must be some very strong actions taken by the president. I think he needs to become a little more radically progressive on some of these issues. However, the law is always our adversities sometimes. So that's all I can say about that. Let's look forward for the best for Liberia.
Look forward to the best, Dr. Pearson. Look forward to the best. Do we see the best in sight?
No, not under this administration as I currently see it the past 6 months. And I can tell you why. No, I want to say hats off to all my fellow panelists on this issue. I think significant points were raised. So I don't want to repeat what they all said. We all understand that the extractive industry is one of the largest in our country. All right. And it's one of the pillars that we rely on for revenue in our country. But let's look at a regional problem that all of us would normally cry about when we're not in power. Bad leadership, bad concessions, bad decisions. And we make all the noise only to come to power and go right back to those very bad leadership and bad concessions. Let me give you some of the reasons why I'm saying this, Jimmy. When President Boga took over, before he could take office, Firestone were under pressure for adding value to rubber, correct? Mm-hmm. Where we wanted Firestone to provide some manufacturing in the country. Mm-hmm. And that led to putting some level of political spin on talking about slowing down on the exportation of unprocessed rubber. But that was just a political spin to get that other goal to be achieved. At the same time, ArcelorMittal was in the legislature under the 54th under serious pressure for not delivering on their promise to the Liberian people based on their concession agreement. That situation was pushed by the opposition with President Boga at the helm of the opposition as well. Fast forward, President Boga had not even sat in the seat properly. ArcelorMittal CEO went to visit President Boga at his house. Some of us commented on social media as influencers and said it was wrong because, like Thomas was saying, you already been compromising your position of strength. When you accept the man to your house and something changes, and we know what changed hands there, whatever goes on at the back of the table there, when you come to power, how do you bring the man to book? And of course, everything about ArcelorMittal went down the hill from then on. We saw HPS come on the table. What became of HPS? Nobody knows. On the table from there. So Beer Mountain is the same thing. On the table. To the extent that the Joseph Boga administration sent Liberia National Police to Beer Mountain in King George to kill citizens there who were trying to advocate for the just benefit from a extraordinary process in Liberia. So what are we talking here? It's bad leadership. Until we can have a leadership in Liberia who will put their foot down and say, listen, before our oil well, before we do anything about our extractive industry going forward, we need to have Liberian expertise in those areas that will reassess the values of our minerals in the ground and reassess those concessions that we have. How are Liberians benefiting? Renegotiate those things. But as soon as these guys come to power, Jimmy, they threw everything away because they are bought. before I close on this, just 1 second before I close on this, Joseph Newman Barker and the opposition was using HPX to lobby against the George Weah administration while they were saying opposition to sanction Liberia. I'm telling you reality. They were using that, and at the end of the day, you owe these people. And if you owe these people, you have to pay. You have to pay them for their services.
Jimmy, how's the man for the evidence, man? How's the man for the evidence?
What you see?
Okay.
Look, these are reality. These are the realities of our day. Our lawmaker, you mentioned it. Our lawmaker take paper before they even go to the concession agreement to review it. Our government take what they call signature fees before they even go to sign the concession agreement. They take signature fees, which they say is part of the process of doing business. But is it helping us? No, it compromises your negotiation. You do not go to the table with strength. So I know Barker supporter will not elect me on this, but I will say this: President Barker is right now in ArcelorMittal pocket. ArcelorMittal has increased productivity. They still cannot tell us the annual turnover as profit from the concession that they're doing in Nima County, and they say giving us peanuts. We want to accept it. We want to live with that. Let's go ahead and live with that. But that is a reality.
Mr. Conner, I hear all the things and Dr. Pearson is saying, but wasn't there also another party that had given $500 million toward the budget, yet they had not received? They wanted to also explore or use the port and the railroad that had already been given to a certain. It was a big thing in the beginning of the year, but all of a sudden it has died down. Is there any truth to what Dr. Pearson is saying?
The thing with Dr. Pearson is that, I know PhD people do a lot of research, but sometimes he talking. I don't know if I should be validating what he says, but the point he's making about HPX was in the public. HPX is having mining interests in Guinea, and the part of Guinea where they are doing the mining is extremely far from the port in Guinea, which is all the way in Conakry. Mm-hmm. So they want to use the rail that we have from Bikena all the way to Sanikole, mm-hmm, to be able to just build their rail to come and connect to that point, and then they can use that access route to be able to export their ore. So under the previous government, it was part of that arrangement that they provided $30 million to the government of Liberia. I mean, it was in the 2023 national budget. At a certain point in time, the legislature said they were going to pull it out because they said it was a contingent kind of resource that they didn't want to depend on. Mm-hmm. But I think that the negotiation is still ongoing because we had gone to Guinea and we had an agreement with the Guinean government in principle to be able to sign that agreement until the coup took place. So I think the government will still be able to move ahead with that agreement.
Didn't we give sole usage to ArcelorMittal? Wasn't that part of the concession?
No, you see, ArcelorMittal was in Liberia not only when Madam Sali became president. They were there during the interim government time. The first agreement they had before Madam Sali took over, Liberia actually gave the rail to ArcelorMittal to say we'll pass it over to you to renovate it and be able to get your ore out. In the second negotiation that took place, the government said this is a government asset. We cannot give it to you. So the real issue now is that the government is saying we want to have a multi-user agreement. We only ask you to use it because you were the only person using this rail. At this point in time, we want to bring in another user so that they can use it along with you. And Metastee is because it was initially handed over to them, they are trying to say that, okay, we have an exclusive right to be able to use this. Right. You can't bring somebody else to use it. And this is where I think the government of Liberia, and it's often the case, you have these global companies come to a poor country and be able to exercise authority over you. This is a sovereign state. Why do we allow a company to determine how we use our assets? I don't think we should allow that to happen.
Well, we signed a paper.
No, it was the previous one. The concession was amended. It is now a property of the government of Liberia.
Okay, very good. Mr. Saleh, if you want to weigh in on this.
Yeah, I just recommend everyone reads Tom Burgess' book. It's called The Looting Machine. I just put it in the chat. If you read our book, yes, it's not just a Liberia problem. This is very a prevalent problem across Africa, whereby these large global companies come. Basically that's the new partition of Africa. They're fighting over African resources, African minerals, raw materials, and taking them out of the continent to China to fuel the manufacturing sector in China and other parts of the globe. And then also fueling conflict like civil wars. We look at DRC today, look at Congo today. What's happening in the Central African region, and even here in West Africa, and the countries like Nigeria, countries that have large deposits of oil and other kinds of minerals. Right? It's the same story. We do not have the capacity to measure exactly. Sometimes, so you understand the types of minerals, that natural resources that we have. They'll come and classify to us: you have oil, or you have iron ore, you don't have copper, you don't have bauxite, you don't have this. And then another one will come in a few years or maybe a decade down the road and say, well, you've actually been having all these other categories of minerals, and now we want new concession agreements to extract. It's just the story. They extract and really don't build our infrastructure. They don't do that corporate social responsibility thing. You look at Western Cluster in Liberia. They are shipping, they're trucking from Bombing, as bad as that road is. And our lawmakers, they are saying, oh, but the people should put some rock on the potholes. They close the potholes at least. So once they line their pockets, that's a lot of money for them. Somebody comes and gives you $1 million, so for $500,000, you're set to go. You're ready to sell your birthright, your country's resources, and your people's health and everything for. It's a behemoth problem. Sometimes it beats my imagination. I don't even know how to discuss it, because it seems when you're talking to people who ought to know, or who have the power to do something about it, either they don't fully understand it, or they think you don't understand it. You don't know what you're talking about because you're not in government, or you're in the diaspora. That's what diaspora people do. They're alarmists. They know everything. And then when they come down, they don't have the capacity. These are the kinds of resentment and divisive tactics nowadays that we hear in Liberia, and it's really costing the country a whole lot. It's a shame that we don't have revenue enough. We don't have up to $1 billion or two to do things that we would like to do.
The love of Liberia, and the Liberia is up for sale. I'm going to come to Mr. Gaiman. Mr. Gaiman, something occurred today, or was it yesterday, that an official of government threatened to kill a lawmaker. Did you hear that Mr. Jabate threatened to kill Yeke Koliba? Did you get whiff of this? And what is your comment on this whole thing?
Do you have the tape by any chance?
No, unfortunately, I don't have the tape. But
okay.
I witnessed his admitting that he did and his apologizing.
Okay, I'm going to pull it up before the show ends. But I gotta say this. And it is as disheartening as this is. I just have to say it. We were here several years ago talking about Congo woman born role, country people born soldiers, and we would take over the country and we would run it better and all of that. And now we have it in our hands. And some of these people are so highly educated. And to see and to hear what is happening, we have to reflect. Just the other day, I was reading the other Liberia, and I came across a quote from the former speaker from Kentucky, Clay, when he said his legitimation for wanting for the black folks to leave these shores, they are incapable of self-governance. This is a man who said these people are useless. No matter how well you train them, how long you teach them, no matter how many PhD they have, self-governance is out of their reach. 200 years later, he may be spinning in his grave. Mark Jabate had just vindicated Clay. Here we are. Someone that is critical of our government, of my uncle, of my father, instead of debunking him, debating him, talking about the issues. You know, someone said, one of my classmates during one of our political science classes said there is the correlation between stupidity and crime. In this modern world, when you're talking to people, everybody is recording. How could Mr. Jabate, of all people, I think he either deputy minister or assistant minister for urban planning or something, whatever his position is, to call a sitting lawmaker and say, you know who I am? I went to school in Russia. I did 2 years of training. We will send mercenaries to you. We'll kill you within 3 weeks if you don't stop doing what you're doing. A lawmaker.
Why you finish?
Listen, if we have gotten to this level, I don't even know what to say, because even during the military days, I think Mr. Salih, if you were young enough to know when the military were around, I think Mr. Khanna maybe you might be much more younger than we are. If you were around in the military days in the 80s, I never heard a master sergeant or somebody captain call a lawmaker and say, I'm coming to your house to kill. I never heard this. This is
no, but we did hear you will not live to tell a story.
Yeah,
listen, everybody says that. Everybody says that, but to personally talk to a person one-on-one, to call a lawmaker and say, this is what I'm going to do. We have never sunk to this depth.
Mr. Kamara.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you got whiff of this, that a threat was made, and Mr. Jabate confessed that he did make such a threat. What is your comment on it?
First of all, let me just say this, and you can use it as a disclaimer. I don't particularly care about Yeke Kolba. I don't really care about what happens to Yeke Kolba, because I think he's a nuisance. However, I believe within me that by tomorrow, before the end of tomorrow, Jabate would be answering to the law. The statement he made was beyond reproach. I think he should be dealt with. And by the way, Jabate is not the man who is supposed to be the moral guy here. I heard Jabate curse Joseph Boakai inside and outside. At a certain point in time, when the ANC versus the CPP thing was going on, I heard Jabate cussing Joseph Boakai. I mean, cussing Joseph Boakai worse than some of the things that other fellow says. I've heard Jabate insult that man. Today, Jabate will tell me, oh, somebody cussing somebody that is a grandpa or a pastor, a man. Yeah. When did you know that? You only got to know that when they give you a portfolio that you don't even understand what it means. Does Jabate understand what it means to be an assistant minister for urban development? Does he know what urban development entails? If he really understood, if he was sophisticated or intelligent enough to understand what urban development entails, he would not even be picking up a phone to call Yeke Kolba, because Yeke Kolba would be a waste of time for him. He would be focusing on laying some of these cities out in the rural area, like Kakata, not rural area, but some of these cities, county cities, laying them out, thinking about drainages, figuring out different things, creating spaces between homes, alleys. Those are things you'll be thinking about, how to label streets and label houses by their physical addresses and stuff. These are things that the idiot should be thinking about, but he has no clue. So because he has no clue, he's redundant. And when he's redundant, I mean, you know what people usually say, that an idle mind is the devil's workshop. So he's looking for something to keep himself busy. But I'll tell you, the portfolio that he has is a very important portfolio. And I really believe that he shouldn't have gotten that job, because you can't spend 8 years getting BSc at University of Liberia and understand what it means to be an urban developer.
Wow. Yeah, Mr. Kane. Yeah, it is. A sitting official threatening a lawmaker because the lawmaker, according to him, insulted his grandpa or the president. And yet is Mr. Kamara testifying that he heard Jabata seen worse. So what do we make of this whole situation then?
Yeah, I mean, before I come to this, I mean, I just wanted to make a quick point on the issue of the mining issue. I mean, I think one of the speakers was talking to us as a people. And I think Mr. Gaiman said that we want to govern Liberia the same way it was designed by the free slaves. All the power is centralized in Monrovia. The only reason why Bapolu took up this issue, and today it has reached to a point where they have charged this Chinese national with economic sabotage of 30 million, is because local communities in Bapolu raised this issue. The first point from which they raised the issue was that this mining concession, or this person was mining in their community forest. And you know, when the Civil War ended, we had this ban on logs until we got out of it. One of the earliest reforms that we went through in that country after the Civil War was forest reform. And so in 2009, they passed the community rights law. And so communities have some rights over their forests. That is the foundation of where it came from. And then the superintendent picked it up. Why am I making this point? If we are able to decentralize governance and put even land monitoring, community monitoring in the hands of community members, they will be able to identify what is happening. We cannot depend on people who are sitting down to capital bypass to Ministry of Lands and Mines to be able to monitor what the miners are doing in the forest. But nobody wants to decentralize any power. Everything should be held by people sitting in tight offices in Monrovia that in many instances don't have current, and they can't do the work that they need to do. So if we give power away to the community members, they are able to self-govern. They will govern their resources, they will govern whatever is happening, and we can be able to do better with even the resources that we have. Then coming on to the issue of the Assistant Minister for Urban Affairs, we are just discussing an accident that took place when there's no rule. There's no rule for Kekes to pass, there's no rule for Kekes to do it. Whose responsibility is it to do that? The Ministry of Public Work, the Department of Public Urban Planning at the Ministry of Internal Affairs. These are rules and responsibilities that they should have. Where are we going to have the vehicles travel over the next 10, 15 years in Monrovia? Because it's an urban center. But urban is something we don't take serious. If we don't have place for people in the government, we send them to the urban section at the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Since the Civil War ended, it's 20 years, we've not finalized our urban development policy. The policy for urban development, we've not done it. UN Habitat has done everything they can do. City Alliance came to Liberia, they did everything they could do. We cannot finalize it. And then we appoint someone who I'm not sure can define urban development. Ali is saying, and we say, you are the Assistant Minister for Urban. So he's less busy, he got nothing to do. The other day, he and Musa Belete, I think, had an issue. He goes to his office, he takes photo with him and put it up and say, oh, the yellow machine issue, I'm working on it, everything will be okay. And Musa Belete comes back to say, Representative Belete comes back to say, no, don't misrepresent any discussion that you had with me. And this is a broader issue of putting people in government where they don't have the capacity to serve. The only way they will serve will be to do other things to justify that they are working. When the real work they need to do is not being done. But urban is something we've done nothing on. And with the way Monrovia is getting flooded now, if we can't do better urban planning, we are in a crisis.
Yeah. Mr. Pearson will leave you for life.
Mr. Eastman, real quick here.
If you continue to be insulting the president, calling the president's name, swear to Allah, we will be missionary to kill you. Okay. If you don't happy, don't not trust me.
Okay, Mark. I'll be with you. I will be with you
If you're
for.
not happy, tell me, Madingo, talk. If
Okay.
you continue to shot the president, we will kill you. I swear to God. Try it.
Okay.
By the way, that guy doesn't represent Madingo people. Just for the record.
But why you say that?
Because he said I'm gonna call him Madingo dog. They should call him Jabatel dog, you know?
My man, we listen to our team, man.
We heard that thing before.
No, this is my first time hearing it.
We're saying these things.
Okay, so this is what we are talking about.
This is
But
what we're
anyway,
talking
you say you never listen to it. That's why I have the clip. Thank you.
Mr. Sirleaf, you had just listened to those words. What do you have to comment about it?
You know, Mr. Jabate, it's very interesting. I don't know him personally. I see him, do a podcast on Facebook, raising funds, doing community development in rural Liberia, mostly in the Islamic community, building masajid, building mosques, and Islamic schools, and hemp farms in communities. Apparently, he's done really well with that. He raises funds, and people send him resources. I mean, he has called my name before one of his shows that he tried to call me to inbox me. I didn't pay attention. He took issue with me. I mean, I don't, if nobody has introduced us and I don't know you really in the past, yeah, there's a way to connect with someone. But I'm just saying that's kind of how on the personal level, right? Somebody will jump in your inbox or go on a show, call your name and say, I've been trying to reach out to you and you're playing hard to get, and that kind of thing. I raised that to say if people really appreciate what he does in that sector, it looks like he's an operation guy. He's able to mobilize resources to work with rural community people. Even in Monrovia, he has done a similar thing like that. But like you're saying, government is a political thing. You appoint somebody for whatever reason in a portfolio that clearly they do not have the capacity or they do not understand it. Now, not understanding or not coming from a sector is a different thing than if you have the education, you put me there, you put somebody there. I have a professor who used to say the best education is learning how to learn. And she said you make yourself an expert, a mini expert in the area you know little about in as quick a time as possible, so that you can intelligently speak to that issue or you can intelligently operate in that space. It's not impossible for Mr. Jabate to understand his portfolio, to begin to function in that role if he really has sort of that adaptive mindset and the sort of the capacity to do that sort of thing. But that is a different issue in my view. I think what I just heard, prior to hearing this, if you asked me, I would have said I won't comment because it would be hearsay. I'd never heard it, but now that I heard that, it looks like it's his voice. It just, I don't know, it beats my imagination. It's just like self-destruction. I mean, in this day and age, you call somebody on a mobile device, try to threaten them and tell them mercenaries. So you will send mercenaries to kill the person. And you think it's a private conversation or that there will be no consequences, and you are a sitting government official, I think that is inexcusable. That is something that one who knows what they're doing would not do. That's really where I want to land. I mean, all the context I've given is about one who knows what they're doing will not do such a thing because it's just foolhardy to engage in that kind of thing. Now, law enforcement will go after him as they should. He has questions to answer, and it's a national security question. Even it means that he knows about mercenary issues. He has a capacity. He's indicated that he will bring people. He names them mercenaries. Our country is a fragile country still, so it's such a person should be questioned on writ large beyond Representative Colbert's situation, but that should be handled. But that there may be other instances where you might be inclined to try to bring about disturbances or try to assassinate other people if you took it from your own mouth and said that you would do that to a certain lawmaker.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson, is the ghost of war still haunting us, that we hear these comments as if we are at war with one another?
Jimmy, we don't have to go far enough to know the answer to that question. The answer is yes. The answer to that question is yes. And I say that if you look at our just in the elections, if you look at the campaign period, you would have noticed a lot of violence that happened during that campaign period that led to the death of people, that led to serious threats of bloodshed in our country that came from several sources in the opposition camp. All right. And the thing here is that, and then when we say this thing, if I had come up to make the comments that Aliyu just made, who is pro JMB, made about Jabaté, people will be lashing at me right now on social media. All right. But it comes to say that leadership again is lacking. You know, I will say this thing until everybody gets to find it. Leadership is lacking. Aliyu said you got people who are in position, you know what they're doing there, and they got no job to do. You got minister proper, you got deputy minister, you got assistant minister, you got director, all for the same title. And yet they say you said about wasting government that you came to cut down, but you still meeting all of those titles and put people there for political reasons, not because of the technical know-how. That's not leadership, and that falls on Joseph Nyeswah. Yeah, what worries me, sorry, Aliyu, but what worries me here is that, you know, the audacity of this young man to claim on the call that he has training from Russia, and he has the capacity to bring in mercenaries to come and kill a certain representative within the Republic. These threats were made during the elections. We say, oh, that was just campaign talk. But these are the very people who come up and tell us what their capacities are. It's worrisome. Now, what makes it a leadership problem? President Boyka is the president of the Republic of Liberia, and yet he presides over on a campaign period that saw the slaughter of Liberians during campaign that he has said nothing about. Tweah, Lofa County, people were slaughtered there through mob violence, and he had the audacity to appoint the Minister of Internal Affairs, what the old man name against that? Francis Newman, as Minister of Internal Affairs, who is also on recording, video recording, just like Jabaté, saying that he would have killed a Liberian citizen. If he found him, he would kill a Liberian citizen. He said it in front of law enforcement officers. We also have the Joseph Nyeswah, President Boyka, giving a leadership position to a girl, a young Liberian girl, who's supposed to be, quote unquote, an example for Liberian young people. Give her another assistant minister job right now in I think MT or one of the areas there. And, you know, who is allegedly involved in mob violence of another young man in Monrovia that got killed during the campaign period. There are videos, evidence to these things. Okay, President Joseph Nyeswah also groomed Yaka Koruba to get into power, and Yaka Koruba cursed the sitting president of the Republic of Liberia, George Maniwia, 24/7 in parliament, out of parliament, on the street, on campaign trail, and Joseph Nyeswah still took telephone and called Yaka Koruba and said, join me on the campaign trail, go in the contest. So he emboldened these people. Queen Johnson. So at the end of the day, thank you for that correction. So at the end of the day, people like Matt Jabaté thinks it is the norm. It is the normality of the situation in the country today, and it's saddening. And I would not shy away from saying, President Boyka, today your convoy killed a little child, killed people. Your convoy killed somebody, maybe more than one today. You have not yet put on your Facebook page where you put all the 100 million appointees and can say everything about what you're doing, but you have not put on your Facebook platform by your press secretary that the president office is saddened for the loss of a Liberian who got killed by my convoy vehicle.
I think we're conflicting some things here.
What I'm saying in short, you know, listen, I'm saying if the leaders does not set the tune, it gives rise to other people to be emboldened to do what they do, and that's a fact.
Wow.
Yeah, Jimmy, may I quickly?
Go ahead.
No, I mean, look, Dr. Pearson, I don't know you. It's my first time, interacting with you on this platform here. And I just want to say, you said you started us off by saying someone contacted you and said so many people watch us when we give these analysis, and therefore we should be careful, which is really true. And I'm just saying, the way, to me, your analysis just now, there are a number of issues you've conflated, right? Nobody is excusing somebody's behavior. Someone who comes on tape and threatens other people with violence, or somebody who uses violence for political means, that is, it's not excusable. We all should just say that is totally wrong and it shouldn't happen. Those individuals should be held accountable. The laws, should take its course. But to say in a political campaign context, if a political candidate who is trying to win office, because you first have to have the power, have to be elected, then you exercise the type of leadership. There's political campaign leadership context. I'm not saying leadership happens only when you are president or you're elected, but I'm saying during campaign times, there are all kinds of bad fellows, as they say, right? Because you want to win. If they think the person has sway, the person has followers, they have the personal character problem and flaws. We all have different flaws, right? And that they're saying bombastic things. In the case of Yeka Koluba, and the candidate Braga at that time invited him to go in the county. Is you saying then Braga should be responsible for Yeka Koluba's behavior now or even before? Similarly with Jabate and others, and the Newmarlin thing you're saying.
So can I answer you?
For me, it's one thing when you
Answer you?
Yeah, when I'm done,
Give me 30 seconds. First of all, no one is excusing Japate's behavior, but we've seen the president's own behavior emboldened Jabate to do what he did. And let me tell you something. When a lady was brutalized in Raleigh through mob violence and she later on died, President Boakai issued a statement. At the time, he was not even president yet, he was president-elect. He issued a statement while he was staying in America yet. He issued a statement through his guys, and he condemned it. As President Boakai condemned Francis Humane threats during his campaign when he supported Joseph Boakai in Lofa County? No. As President Boakai condemned Yaka Koluba when he used his insults and verbatim words that we cannot even repeat on this show against the president of the Republic of Liberia, did President Boakai say anything or condemn it? No. Because he wants to get into office. Is that what we're saying here? I'm not going into all of that detail. What I'm saying here is that if you have people under your authority as a leader, you set the tone. You set the tone. If he did not give Francis Humane, if he did not reward Francis Humane with a ministerial position after he had threatened the lives of other citizens and not give him credence for supporting him during the campaign when you're denigrating the presidency, we will not be having this conversation. He will have the moral high ground to correct this young man. But why would he say that a young man when Francis Humane is sitting in the office and did the same thing? That's what we're saying here.
Okay, let me come in a little bit. Now, we're about to close right now. And some people have said that there's freedom of speech. It should not be curtailed for any reason. Now, one would say that the Honorable is exercising his freedom of speech. As long as you're not threatening the life of another, I don't think you've committed a crime. But once you begin to threaten a life or to do harm to someone else, I think that is when you've crossed the line. But I'm going to let all of you guys, you got 30 seconds to comment and close us out. And we will be back here again on Friday to talk some more. Mr. Gaiman.
Well, thank you very much. I think great show. I think Mr. Pearson, Dr. Pearson made a point. When in Basel we say, so the charity begins at home. So here we are. The objective, the primary objective of the president is to keep the country safe. That's number one. The president, even though he is where he's at, but now there should be a guy by the name of Jabate that should not be on the government payroll as we speak. Jabate should be fired immediately. He does not represent the image, the moral standing of Joseph Boakai. If he was a true leader, that's what would have happened. Just as the embassy prevailed upon George Weah and say, this man called Fangon by trying to divide this nation by calling other people Congo and country, it has no place in this government, it has to go. Just that. Now, a government official in his official capacity calls a lawmaker and say, I'm going to make sure you die within 3 weeks. I am trained. I spent 2 years in Russia and I have mercenaries that will come and do this. That the president should be on the air by now and telling the country, the whole world, that this doesn't represent us. This is not how we want to run our government. The young man is no longer within the employ of our government. But as usual, Joseph Boakai is silent, as he has been on everything. So Dr. PSC is correct. He is emboldened. His immediate boss said, I have killed people. I'm an old rebel. I'm going to buy 25 motorbikes and I'm going to put 3, 75 killers everywhere I see Falabu. I'm going to mock him to death.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Salif. Mr. Salif, your closing comments.
Well, we're closing now. I thought we were taking calls from the viewers because I see comments.
I don't know if Dennis can set it up, we'll do it.
Yeah, people may be inching to participate in the
Dennis,
conversation.
do we have any callers on the line?
I think Dennis should announce the number. Let's give it a few.
You announce the number. How do I put people on the line?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you can, if you want to join this show tonight, the number is flashing across the screen. Or once you call this number 605-313-6004, and the passcode is 791403, you can join us live right now. We're waiting for you.
£403. Yes.
Full yes, 791403 £. Okay, while we're waiting for those calls, Mr. Sirleaf, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to be between the headlines tonight with you all, gentlemen. I always say we should really try to bring ladies among us here because it just makes us look misogynistic or something. And we always get accused of that. And I know Dennis will say the producers try their best to try to reach out. And the way we are bombastic sometimes, some of our female counterparts try to stay away, but I think we should try our best to do that. I think it's been a real good conversation. We need these kinds of conversations. If possible, we can even draw on people who are in Liberia, people who are in the government. I know Dennis does that all the time and reaches out to folks. Some agree to come, some don't. But it should not be just a diaspora thing, because I go to Liberia regularly to work and to visit and just do research and observe. There's troubling sign for me with this diaspora and home divide, this resentment towards diaspora professionals in particular. I think is very ridiculous. We should go away from. It's not going to help the country to grow. And also on the part of diaspora folks, this reframe often that either we know better or the most educated people are in the diaspora. Those kinds of things are not true 100%. The very highly educated professionals on the ground who never left Liberia, maybe they went to study, went back home, very competent people. So it takes all of us. It takes us both in the diaspora and at home to come together to fix our country, to address some of the issues we've raised there tonight. I'll stop. I see that there are callers on the line. I'll let you go for it.
But you know, this point you brought up, it is extremely important because the diaspora has helped other countries get back on the road.
Yes.
But why is there so much disunity? You know, and in other words, that's the new Congo people that I can see now. Anybody who go to America and come back, then they look at them differently. We can't progress like that.
Mr. Eastman, let's talk you and Mr. Torso and Mr. Salih and Brother Conan, listen to this. Today, when I saw, I think it was Martin Colley that reported, one of the ladies who have been like one of us said they were going home to sacrifice. She requested $45,000 US for relocation, of money that we do not have. So if you going home to help your country to sacrifice, and for you to go, you wanted to pay your way to go, $45,000 plus. Why wouldn't the guy on the ground feel envious?
Allegedly, though, I mean, that's that Martin, the Verity News reported that and called the lady expatriate minister. You see these kinds of language, expatriate minister. Just because
is she coming from abroad? Isn't she an
she spent time here? My understanding is, but I don't know. Jaso Jala, I think her name is the Minister of Education, President Sirleaf time. Yes. I understand. And Thomas probably knows this more, that she worked at the CSA. She probably Lipa. She came to school here, got a PhD, spent time and worked here. Yes, so she's that makes her diaspora. Yes, but to call another Liberian citizen who has gone home to serve, expatriate ministers requesting this.
But Ahmed, I think the term expatriate comes with the context of the money.
Yeah, I get a context.
Yeah, so it's almost like no. 1 second. I see the way you are trying to what you are getting at. It's like you looking at one second. It's like you are looking at this Liberian who's coming back home almost like an expatriate. But the way she was relocated, I think the point of the paper is that the way she was relocated is almost like she's an expatriate.
Yeah.
My point about this is that this is in the context of dual citizenship. We just pass a law, right? To say wherever you are, once you were born in Liberia, you go to school now and everything, you are still a Liberian. So if you are a Liberian, it's typically at any point in time we consider you to be part of the country. Should we still be repatriating you to go and work in your country? And the problem, Dr. Duke always talk about this, the problem we have in this country is that things that happen during the time of the interim government, people continue with it.
Yeah. Thomas, you're reinforcing that.
You guys have a caller?
We're going to have a whole show about this.
I think
we need a show about this.
It's a serious problem. I understand where you're raising. Look, contract, you don't know the arrangement between this individual and the president to serve. People have different arrangements to accept to serve a particular portfolio, to leave their job wherever it is. There are all kinds of things there. I'm not saying $46,000 is what is worth somebody relocating in order. I do not know the facts to that. I can't speak to that. It was some news report. I don't know if it's verifiable.
We'll take this. You know, I can tell you, you can give it to them for free and they don't want it.
Right. Yeah.
So, do we have any callers?
Yeah, we got two.
Caller, state your name and where you calling from.
Well, Livingstone, man. I miss Livingstone.
Mr. Livingstone. Caller, state your name and where you calling from.
You sure the line open?
The line is open. According to the line, we got two. Dennis, are you there?
Dennis, I fall asleep.
Let's go on until Dennis come back. Mr. Connor, your parting words.
It was a good show. I mean, on the issue that we're just discussing, I'm only saying the context within which the Verity newspaper will have seen this. There are Liberians that are well educated. They are working outside there to
Oh, that's a caller. Just 1 minute. Caller, state your name and where you calling from.
Yeah, my name is Tomo Livingstone. I mean, great show today. For me, all the panelists, what all they are saying. Look, Dr. Pearson, when it comes to life, when someone family member lose their life, don't use that as a political thing or something like, oh, the president motorcade, it happened during theater time, it happened during Joetta. I'm not saying what happened today is right. We shouldn't use that as a political thing, trying to blame the president. Let's stop doing that. Someone lose their life, their family members are bereaved. Don't try to use it as a political thing like President Barker was driving a car. We shouldn't do that. Even in America, when you driving a car, you get into an accident, you don't hold the passenger responsible because the passenger is in the car with you. We shouldn't do that. When it comes to Mike Jefferson, what he said was completely wrong. But at the same time, look, if we can't be selective when it comes to this thing. We are here, what his name, Jackie Quarterback saying he gets gun, he gets people in the bush, he will go bring rebel to attack and stuff like that. Why you guys did not say, oh, the Jackie Quarterback should resign as a representative? No, you guys were not talking about that. You guys are quiet. You guys say that freedom of speech. No, no one should be telling someone like, but don't be selective when it comes to certain things. We should hold Yaga Quarterback responsible the same way we hold him Mike Jabbatet and responsible of what he said. As a leader, as a representative, you should represent your people. Behave like a representative, as an honorable person. In America, you don't see representatives going on the road, causing president, all that stuff. Because you're an honorable person, we expect you to behave like one. So, great show today. Great show. That appears, I'm telling you, the president will not resign. So you're wasting your time. Thank you.
Thank you for your call. Caller, what's your name and where you calling from? Caller, state your name and where you calling from?
You have to call their numbers.
Go ahead. Are you not there?
Say again, Dennis.
Okay. David is not talking. Let's go to the next one. Nina Mills.
Hello?
Yes, caller. State your name and where you calling from.
Yeah, I just said I'm Hassan Douglas, calling from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Are you getting me?
Yes, we're getting you.
Yeah, I was just trying to buttress what my brother just said. Whenever it comes to death, we should not criticize that. That is not about politics. We know that even in the great United States, whenever there is ambulance, people pass the road. The president is not the one that killed, even though we are a little sorry for a son, but we hope that the president will do something about it. When your time reaches, there is no other way. If it happens recklessly, there should be the police should see into it. But President Convoy, those things happen. Every Joetta time, Taylor time, it always happen. But to always blame the president for any small thing that happened, the major stayed in chair for almost going to 7 months. So I think everything cannot be politics. So I don't take it for us to be looking up to what the president, whether somebody should blame president or people that died today. I'm sorry. I have their sympathy. When it comes to Mark Jefferson.
No, it keeps happening. How do we stop it? You said Taylor Convoy kill, Ellen Convoy kill, Weah Convoy kill, Waka Convoy kill. So how do we stop it?
People, you should know that whenever they say President Convoy, everybody should fight off the road. Those things happen. They don't have control over that. If it was done recklessly, the law should take a course. But everybody know that when they say President Convoy is coming, what really happened? Because they don't really waste time because their focus point is to go to drive where they are going. It is wrong to say that, but it's just like we should not be blaming the government or the president about it. And it's something that happened. You will buckle. I know that when in opposition, you always say whether it is positive, you always make it negative. So that's what I'm trying to say, that let us promote peace then and making statements that will not benefit us. And secondly, my Jabate's statement it is not really fine. But still then, that cannot stop him from he is a Liberian. If the president offers him a job, he's a Liberian. As long as statement is never heard or he never cared about it, there should be a position given to him. He fought for the government and he's a Liberian. You have the right to serve in the government.
Is he qualified for that job? Is he qualified?
You qualify.
Okay.
You see, my Jabate being how they call it, humanitarian. Even today, he gets 60 bear out to other Liberian of his staff. So he qualified. There have been no legacy send my Jabate took that position. And we all know, even Taylor, even Joel time, or Boji's made a lot of statements, but he'll stay serving as city major that will make blood and fresh. We all know he still make those statements, but at the end of the day, he still said, as long enough army your friend Liberian, and they have given you the job and you're doing it, there should be no problem with that. And let us always talk about good things about Liberia, but everything can be, every day we just criticizing.
Thank you.
Another president come, what time will develop?
Thank you.
There will be. So it's good that it's a good show, but let us talk about development and talking about something that will not benefit us. It's not right. So that was the one that I have to say.
Thank you
for a great show.
Anybody else on the line?
David, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. State your name and where you're coming from.
Okay, good evening, gentlemen. It's a wonderful show. I really enjoy it. On the accident, I think with the education, as time goes on, when people hear the siren, whether it's the ambulance or the police, need to get up, educate, and I do that now. So these things happen not intentionally, but President Convoy.
Breaking up there, David. Yeah, I think we lost David. All right. Anybody else we got on the line, Dennis?
That's it.
Okay. So I think you are in the middle of closing, Mr. Connor, or is it Kamara time?
Yeah, let me just.
Yeah,
I think good show. No, I was just thinking that maybe we need to do a survey and ask the listeners what we should be discussing. Because every time we come to say, you guys are only discussing only negative issues. You're not discussing any positive issue. Even the show we had last night. So maybe I think we need to send out a survey. Sometimes let them select the topic and then we'll.
Well, we have one guy who has been trolling us, Mr. Wallow. He said there's been so many achievements by this administration. And while we could just sing praises, but our thing is, are we analyzing the things that we could be doing more? Or are we just going to be satisfied by a mediocre level of achievement? But, there's probably some way we can I'm glad Mr. Kamara is on this panel and Mr. Sirleaf is on this panel because they bring balance. They bring some pro admin stuff and very honest about their opinion. So what we will do, we'll invite, if Mr. Wallow has the gumption to say these things, we'll invite him on the panel and let him come and defend his views.
Let me come in, and sometimes I want to ignore Mr. Wallow because this is what he says, right? You don't talk about the successes of how do we come and say, and the successes that he lays here, he built, these are the things he talks about, right? The president, he didn't put it on Facebook, he was at this place. He met with Metal Steel. Today, the president ate jollof rice, and that's supposed to be. I mean, I'm so surprised at Sam's reasoning. I really think that he should elevate what he's saying, because he come and say you don't say anything positive. We should list that he met with Metal Steel and he signed this agreement. what we are doing is we are analyzing what's happening. Did the convoy didn't kill people today? Are we not talking about it? And people are bringing different sides to the issue. Let Mr. Wallace show me where he thinks the government officials are going, where there is any balance. He has become, that's why I say he was just parroting, because even I call him, he cannot say one thing that we should do. He just said, be positive. Talk about the good things the government is doing. Well, if you want us to be ELBC or maybe presidential secretary, then that's something else. But that's not our role.
Mr. Ghana, you finished?
No. I mean, 1 or 2 shows ago, we're discussing the national development planning, right? How important it is, what that will do, and all of that. And the way you said only Mr. Kamara and Ahmed can support the government, almost like you say I'm negative towards the government.
So, no.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
I knew Thomas was going there.
Here is an example of what Wally wants for us to discuss.
Gentlemen, let's move on.
Let's put this to rest. Just take a look at this. Is what he wants us to talk about.
No, yeah, okay, we see it. Mr. Kane.
Okay, no, I was just,
you're like Depot. I'm surprised they haven't hauled you in there. All you guys, you younger guys, you leave all of you. I expect you all to go there and do your thing. Mr. Pearson will not try to be down there.
Well, boy, the cabinet now is a thank you cabinet that Dr. Do normally says. So
yes.
When they finish their time, we'll go.
And maybe when they see you.
Yeah. But good show. I mean, on the issue of the appointments, like I said, the judiciary, especially with the magistrates, they are our court of first instance. They need to be staffed so that people can have access to justice. Not saying that the issue of the cost of it is not important, but sometimes the thing we don't stress a lot is that we just see the judiciary as a service delivery part of the government. That all these people, we're just paying them, but they are a critical piece for economic growth and development. Because if you don't have any judicial system that can be able to protect contracts, that can solve conflicts, people will not be able to transact, they will not trade, and therefore will not grow. So instead of just seeing the judiciary as just a burden on us, we also have to see them as a key player in our growth and development process. On the issue of the convoy, like it has been repeatedly done, I would expect that the government can bring in the police, can bring in the EPS, and see how this thing can be avoided moving on. How do you control the traffic when the president is moving, so that we don't have this kind of situation? Because to me, I don't like to see poor people die. They are already suffering. They can't find food to eat. Why should they be going through pain? And the issue with poverty is that I fundamentally believe that when people are poor, it's not just because sometimes we have this individual agency. People are poor because they are lazy. But in some instances, in our part of the world, it's because the state has not given them the opportunity to be able to grow. So it's really painful when I see poor people die. On the issue of the mining sector, I think we need to decentralize, give authority to our communities to manage their land, to manage their forests, and we can be able to improve governance as we move forward. A good show. I will look forward to maybe the next edition tomorrow.
Thomas, real quick before you go, can you please discuss just throw a little light on how do we deal with the dual judicial system that we have?
So there has been a lot of work that has been going on in Liberia to be able to have a connection between the informal judicial system that we have and the formal judicial system. Because if you have a case, for instance, that starts in the informal judicial system, often the government of Liberia now has this alternative dispute resolution policy that they develop. They are trying to roll it out. Because you don't have courts all across the country, sometimes the informal judicial system can be able to address petty issues, maybe conflict between brothers and sisters that can be addressed without overburdening the judicial system. So what the Ministry of Justice has been working on to say, can we link the two systems so that when a case starts in the informal judicial system, it can enter the judicial system and be able to continue? Because the way it looks, it's like we don't consider that other judicial system. Everything you do there, when you come to the formal judicial system, you have to start all over again. So there's a way they are trying to have a linkage between the two, because You can't just wipe it away. We don't have the money. Right now, the president appointed people, we are complaining that they are plenty. We don't have the money to have courts in all the villages. And our state of development has a lot of informality. So this is something the Ministry of Justice is working on. But I agree with you. The dual judicial system we have affects a lot of what we do across our governance system. Whether it's access to justice, you have issue with Sasewu, for instance, that were made illegal a couple of years ago. This is a problem that we have. But my point is that it is to the attention of policymakers, and they are trying to work to see how we can solve this problem.
All right. Very good. Mr. Kamara.
Yes, sir. It's been a great show. You know, recent time, somebody took out a piece of Donald Trump's ear. And nobody asked Joe Biden to resign because somebody shot Donald Trump. Guess who they went after? The Secret Service boss, not Joe Biden. Just because Joe Biden appoints someone doesn't mean when they do something, you go to Joe Biden. It doesn't work like that, PSA, PhD. That's not how it works. And I listened to my brother Ahmed try to emphasize and re-emphasize on the thing about divide between diaspora, professional, and the people in Liberia. I'm trying to look through it, but I don't see it. Name me any agency in Liberia right now or ministry where it's not occupied by diasporian. I'm trying to figure out.
Name me any agency that's occupied by diaspora other than circumstantial. Yeah.
Okay, the entire legislature, 97%. I will put that number to our diasporian. The same people who are making a law that you and I cannot become minister in Liberia. They're from the diaspora. All of them, including the Abochie, all of them. Okay.
They don't see it that way, Mr. Kamara, with all due respect.
We're closing.
Yeah, so look at all the ministers, the deputy minister, the different agency heads, diasporan, even in the CDC, in the Unity Party, Chancellor administration. It's always been diasporian. I don't think there's much left in the diaspora except for opposition. Like when your candidate wins, they carried a whole bunch of diasporan that supported that candidate at that particular time. Those who do not win stay over and say all the professionals that stay here, the people that are on our side are not professional because they're not, you know. So this is the stuff we're having. But all in all, look, it's been a great show, Mr. Pearson. I see your passion for comments and stuff like that, and your anti-position for Joseph Parker, but for the sake of the audience, do me a favor moving forward. Just say things that you can actually defend as opposed to just screaming around here. But I enjoy you though. Thanks for having me, and I enjoy my time sharing platform with this wonderful people.
You will be in politics soon. Just the way. Keep it. Mr. Pearson, Dr. Pearson, go ahead.
I want to thank you for having me on the show tonight, Jimmy. And, just because my name occurred on a couple of occasions, I would like to just mention to Livingstone. I think we all started the show by saying that we express deep sympathy and empathy for the loss of a Liberian citizen as a result of the motorcade accident in Liberia today. And that's how we began our conversation on the show. And when we mentioned that issue, I think one of the things we want to take home is that we have poor infrastructure when it comes to our road network in the country. We need to see how we can improve on that in as much as we want to reduce a motor accident in Liberia. If we have poor infrastructure, we will continue to have these incidents happening. And we mentioned about lawlessness in our city, when people not following traffic laws and rules. Those are all contributing factors. We also mentioned reckless driving as a major component of the reason for accident. And I too have a family member who suffered serious injury that left that person crippled as a result of presidential convoy. And I'm telling you for a fact, they drive recklessly. They do not drive for the safety of the president. They drive to show off, and they drive to prove as though that the president should take complete dominion of the entire street because they're passing. And these are the same people who come every morning and walk amongst them when they're looking for vote. These are the people who come and stand and play ludo with the people and walk with them and sit in the water with them when they want them to do elections. And then after elections, then they're untouchable, unreachable. That's wrong, and they should stop the reckless driving because the government officials. And we should sit down, since this has happened over several governments, we should sit down and find a solution to how this thing can be addressed so that our people cannot continue to have this situation happening. on the issue about the employment issue, I will still maintain there is a report on Liberia where the Supreme Court said that we have too many magisterial courts across the country that is not relevant for our needs based on our size. 79 magisterial courts across Liberia among 16 judicial circuit courts from the 15 counties across Liberia. We have rural communities that magisterial judges are fighting over cases because there's no case there. The bulk of our case load that we have a huge backlog of cases in Liberia is in Monrovia, in the capital, because of the population and the size of and the rate of crime in Central City. And so there will have our major issue in the rural communities. Is not that serious. And when I say it's not that serious, like we mentioned earlier, the dual judicial system, we cannot get rid of the informal because it's within our culture. Our people have the palava hut kind of a setting where the elders take care of minor cases and the major ones go to court. So we're not going to get it. It's part of our culture. It's not going to go away. So I would say let us cut down the government. If we can't cut down the government, we're going to have a problem in the future. We need a manageable government, save on resources and channel our resources, limited resources what we need the most. And lastly, I want to say when it comes to the extractive industry, it goes back to leadership. Our leaders are corrupt, and I will say this again. It is corruption that gets us having bad policy, bad concession. We take bribe before the companies can even take root. We take envelope before the companies can even take root. We take pay cuts before the companies can even take root. We go as far as even short-circuiting our own benefits from the ordinary people because people want to put money in their pocket. Until we can correct those bad leadership in the executive and in the legislature, we'll continue to have our resources exploited. We need Liberians who have the requisite training and the technical know-how to understand what we actually have and what are we giving out to these people who are going to come and extract it from us so we know what we can benefit from them. And with that, I want to just rest tonight and say, look, Aliu, it's not about politics, right? People die. The president should come up and tell people, look, I'm concerned about this death, and I want to tell Liberian people, sorry, that
the
this is
president spoke with the family of the bereaved.
That's taking leadership over the issue. So let the government take leadership over issue. That's all.
You know, we're all said and done. We have a lot to do. But if we could only synergize our energies and come together, we can achieve great. I think the main thing that's holding us back is we're not together. But still, we are all Liberians. So we'll just take that away.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people.